What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome today to my top 5 bosses in Dark Souls 3. That's right, you guys, we're gonna dive into it today, and I'm gonna let you know who my favorite bosses are of Dark Souls 3, because that game is absolutely epic. It's one of the best Dark Souls games ever to come out. Ever. I will die on this hill. So coming in at number 1, a strong number 1, is the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. Comes in with grace, elegance, poise, sophistication. The Dancer of the Boreal Valley has to be one of the best bosses ever created in Dark Souls history. Period. End of story. Capitalization mark with a cup of coffee on the side. That boss was difficult. It was a good challenge, and it was, again, such a beautiful boss. I love that boss. That's why it's at number 1. And we're not doing like the countdown from 5 because I'm silly. I don't know. That's just how it's gonna go. Today we're gonna go in with number 1 instead. I don't know why. Come to think of it, it's kind of silly that I actually did it in number 1, but we're going with it. Coming in at number 2 is Souls of Cinder. This boss was so beautiful. It was a culmination of every single boss and every single type of attack that there is in the game. I feel like Souls of Cinder has such a philosophical and psychological meaning behind it that it's not just one episode that I'll need to cover this, and I feel like there are multiple episodes that I'll need to do on Souls of Cinder, because there's so many implications that it is in the lore that you're fighting all of the souls combined into one giant Gundo, Big Mac meal soul. So I feel like there's so much lore and there's so much stuff behind the Souls of Cinder. That's what makes it absolutely amazing. So when I saw the boss, I was like, oh, okay, all right, suave, sophistication, I'm liking it. And also, I didn't realize that there was a second phase to the boss. I was shook. I was speechless. I sat there in my chair and was sitting back. I was like, okay, yes, I'm doing this. I can't believe I've almost killed this boss. My jaw dropped. You guys, I was like, what? What's happening? Why is it going on? Coming in at number 3 on the list is Abyss Watchers. I like this boss mainly because it has to do with Artorias. Okay, anytime I think of Abyss Watchers, I think of Artorias. So that's not even joking. That's the main reason why I like this boss, because Abyss Watcher. And what I love about this boss is that it doesn't warn you that it's gonna go into a second phase. You get a nice cutscene and everything, but I didn't really expect going into it that I would be fighting with its fire sword. A Soul of Cinder. Should have expected it probably, but I didn't, and that's the beauty of going into a game blind. You never expect a lot of things. Sometimes you can predict what's going to happen at certain points, but I feel like with Dark Souls, you can never predict really where it's going to go. Now, 4th on the list was kind of challenging because I didn't know if I wanted to put this as number 5 or even number 3, because it's a really good boss, and it's the Twin Princes. And technically these guys aren't a Soul of Cinder because they don't have any fire art, unless you want to count the sword that they use that has fire on it when they slam it down and there's a fire trail that goes from the sword. Unless you want to count that, but they really didn't say in the lore that they were Souls of Cinder, that they didn't technically light the first flame. But I love the way that, just again, beautiful artwork, beautifully done bosses of where you see the progression of the story through the boss fight. It was really something else, because during the second phase, you see the other prince heal and keep reviving and bringing back the main prince, and I thought that was pretty savage, honestly. Because when I was going through this boss battle, I actually was doing this as a co-op with one of my friends, and each time I would go into the second phase, I would just keep rewatching the cutscene that went into it, because you see this kind of witchy looking weak second prince, and then you would see the main prince who kept saying that no matter what you do, you're still gonna die, you're still gonna you're not gonna succeed in taking the throne. And I feel like he's such a bitter person, this prince. I feel like it's really interesting to see how the story goes through the eyes of the character. I think it's really awesome. I feel like out of all of the bosses, the Twin Princes were the most story and mentally stimulating. Like, they were both mentally stimulating in the fact that it had so much lore and so much story within that one boss fight, but also mentally stimulating in the fact that the prince there was so much dialogue that he had during it. And I'm like, what is this? This is absolutely incredible. And number 5 on the list is Woolyear. Moldier it has to be one of the saddest bosses I think I've ever encountered, but one of the best, because you just see this massive skeleton that you have to fight, and I feel like it's so indicative of how massive Dark Souls is. I think they were trying to personify the feeling of just how big the game is in itself, because there's so much you can do. Illusionary walls, characters, concepts, lore, things that we probably will never even know about the game. There's a lot, and I feel like, since, for me at least, that boss was personifying the grandness of what Dark Souls is, and the fact that each time you got close to, and I don't know if people think this is strange to think, but I feel like each time you get close to an answer about what some of the lore is, you kind of have to go 2 steps back. It's the same with this boss if you think about it, because each time you get close to the boss, you get poisoned, and there's like darkness that comes over the player. So you kind of have to watch your step and watch where you're going. This is so crazy to think about, that all of these bosses, all of these characters, all of these lore and story points are in one game, and it doesn't convolute itself. It doesn't contradict itself. It goes perfectly smoothly with everything. And I feel like that's the beauty of Dark Souls, especially with Dark Souls 3. You see so many story points and so much lore that's from the first game, that's from some of the second game, and you see, people will call it fan service. I don't think it's fan service. I think it's more or less of where it's including points from the first 2 games into this very nicely. And, props to the writers, because that's their doing, So I think that's really awesome. And I think, again, I'll say that this boss is one of the best, because I feel like it's a culmination of, even though it's not the end of the game, it's not an end game boss, it's the grandness of what Dark Souls is in a nutshell. But that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed my top 5 bosses of Dark Souls. If you guys want another top 5 for any game in particular, let me know down in the comments below, and I can see if I can do that if I've played the game. Of course, I'm not going to do a top 5 for a game I haven't played yet.